Welcome back to the Worthy for 30 podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tash. With me today is a very dear friend of mine for over 15 years, a man who has a face and a voice built not just for podcasts, but for community and culture. Jeff Ragovin doesn't just tell stories, he curates the rooms where they happen. Welcome to the show, Bounty Uncharted host, Jeff Ragovin.
What's up,
Not
Eric?
much, my man. It's been a while since you've been on the podcast, and a lot has changed since the last time you and I spoke on the Worthy for 30 podcast. Previously, you were a tech entrepreneur leading Samasio to exit and acquisition. Now, what are you up to?
What am I not up to,
That's
Eric?
a great question. That's
Um,
a great question.
yeah, so it's been a really, I'd say, insane 2025. Sold the company in November of 2024. Took like a couple weeks to decompress over the holidays, and then January rolled around, and I'm like, all right, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that not only enjoys building but also enjoys community, and so kind of launched a whole bunch of interesting projects. One of them being Bounty Uncharted, which is kind of exciting because we just launched it like 3 days
Mm-hmm.
ago.
Yeah.
um, so the idea really started about a year ago, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's the concept is kind of like Nat Geo meets Wicked Tuna meets the Food Network, all rolled up into one show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we spent the entire summer filming, had amazing guests, everybody from athletes to chefs to entrepreneurs to people with wild stories of, being in jail for 30 years for murder on something that they did not do. And so that was really kind of it was like my inspirational, creative passion moment of my life where I was able to take everything that I love and smash it together into one thing. And so that's been really exciting. That's taken up a lot of my time.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of gone full throttle with my Digital Fork Dinner series, which you've been to many throughout
Yep.
the years, which is really a very curated, intimate, amazing experience with CMOs and executive marketers at amazing
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, talking about life, and then working with just a lot of really great companies that are doing great things out there. And then, of course, South Fork Sea Farmers, which is my nonprofit that I helped start, and I've been busy. So as I'm kind of like looking into
Mm-hmm.
2026, like there's a lot of things on the
Mm-hmm.
horizon. Um, and yeah, it's great to be on here. It's kind of a nice way to close things out. I don't know where the year went,
I know,
actually.
right? It's like time is a thief. You blink, and then it's the next year, and then you're planning for New Year's Eve, and then what are you going to be doing? What are your goals and aspirations for the new year? And when you think about Digital Fork, Bounty Uncharted, which is super exciting, and for all the people who are going to be listening to this conversation, I'm going to include a link to both YouTube and the Bounty Uncharted Instagram handle. Again, it's a first person perspective of life on the water. Celebrating people, celebrating the aquatic life that we sometimes neglect, and which Jeff and team are bringing to the forefront through South Fork Sea Farmers, and why we need to keep our waterways clean. And then it's again, it's coming together. The one thing that I love about Jeff is that he's a people person. And I don't say that as a trite way of saying, yes, a lot of people are people, but our people are people.
People are
People are
people,
people,
Eric.
right? I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but what I am trying to say is that he has a very magnetic presence. Where you go to a Digital Fork dinner, and the common thread is, "I know Jeff," and it's not "I know Jeff" on a surface. It's like, no, I know Jeff as a human being. And I think when you see Bounty Uncharted, that's a reflection of the humanity that Jeff brings, to the screen and to these episodes that are. And we've been talking about Bounty Uncharted. I think it was that Digital Fork dinner back in February, where you had the pieces in place and then you put it together. So my question is that for the people, for the creators, the creative entrepreneurs who are going to be listening to this episode, what's your advice to them where they have an idea but sometimes they feel hesitant to executing that idea?
Yeah. That's a really great question because I think it's a lot of folks are feel fearful, of that question, and I think even for me, I'm like, how do I do this? Like, I'm directing a show, I'm producing a show, I'm hosting a show. I've never done that before. I've built
Hmm.
companies, I've built teams, I know how to do that. And I think when it came down to it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn how to do this and I'm going to test myself in the kitchen. And, I think it was around February when we were at that
Hmm.
dinner, I started doing like, content and went diving for scallops in the middle of the winter and, you know, had the cameras in the kitchen. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, this is just too
Hmm.
hard. But over time, you start
Yeah.
learning, right? You make a lot of mistakes. Um, Someone's talking, the dogs are barking. I'm like, you have to redo it like 3 times, and then it doesn't become fun. And so I think there's a in any it doesn't matter what you're doing in
Hmm.
life, right? Most of the time, even as entrepreneurs, we're building the plane as we're flying it, right? I kind of looked at this as the same exact thing. And you just got to do it,
Hmm.
right? I think that's the best advice. Like that's the best advice I could give anybody is don't be scared. The worst thing in the world that could possibly happen to you is that you fail. And then you learn from that
Hmm.
failure, right? We fail like every single day of our lives. There's nobody that makes it through a day without failing at something,
No,
right?
absolutely not. Yeah.
So it's like I think at the end of the day, it's like life is so
Hmm.
short, right? Even we're just talking like where did the
Yeah.
year go? Like we're getting older, we're getting, closer to like later in
Yeah.
life, and it's like time starts to accelerate. And so just, just do what you want to do and, build what you want to build and don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just start doing it. I think that's the best thing that someone can do. Is like, all right, okay, I figured out this is something that I'm good at, and this is something that I can't do. So I'm going to hire someone to do this, the part that I'm really bad
Hmm.
at. It's the same thing in any business, and so I think we live in a world right now of there's so many tools out there that could help us accelerate what we're
Hmm.
doing. Just think about even just
Oh
AI
my God.
tools,
Yeah.
right? With creative and text and like lists and like merging and like things that would take us hours that we now can just outsource as
Hmm.
tasks um, to make our jobs easier. I mean, I'm juggling like literally 5 things at once right now, like 5 very different um, businesses, nonprofits, a show. Like I'm kind of like a one man CEO. And I've always had a team around me to help me with doing a lot of things. But now I'm like, I could do it all. I could do the scheduling. I could do the hosting. I can do the pitching. I can do the
Hmm.
decks. Like, you know, now if we need to go one step further and I need to have a really beautiful deck, like I'm going to send it to my friend who runs an agency and have him create that for
Right.
me. Right. But in general, like if I have a template, right, I could run pretty fast. And so um, I think a lot of people just, you know, they run out of time and they don't do what they're supposed to do, right? So I think you have to always think about that time is precious, and so now is the best opportunity to seize the day, whatever you want to do.
Right, now is the time. But what's also interesting in what you're saying is like how self-aware you are. Like, yes, you've built, you've started, you've created companies from nothing, from scratch. You've helped scale Buddy Media to exit with Salesforce back in 2012. You've done pretty incredible things. But what's amazing is that your maturity from then to now, in terms of, yes, you're a one-man show, but I'm able to understand, okay, where am I as an A plus versus maybe a B plus. And for those B pluses, are those B pluses really moving the needle for me where I need to do it myself, or can I find someone who that person, it's an A plus for them to complete that task? So I think that's also very important for the people who are listening, who have creative and entrepreneurial aspirations, to also understand and taking a step back to what Jeff is doing and evaluating, the ecosystem that you're managing.
I mean, I think even the show is actually a really good example of actually thinking about it as a company
Hmm.
perspective, right? When you're producing a show, there are so many things that go into play here. And this is not just like you're in the kitchen in the house. Like this is we're on a
Yeah.
boat. We're out 100 miles. Like we're doing a dinner party for 16 people. We've got to get the guest. who's going to be on the show flying in. We got to figure out who that guest is, right? We need our cinematographer who's running the drone above the boat so that we can get all of the whale shots, right? We need like our editor who's incredible at slicing, all of the hours and hours and hours and hours of video
Hmm.
that we shoot. We need the people shooting, right? It's like there's so many components, and I think at the end of the day, there's so many things that could go wrong,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with like Mother Nature, right?
Right. So what do you do in those situations? If
Well, like somebody asked me the other day, like, well, because we're in like 40
yeah.
festivals right now, which is super exciting, and we've already been selected for a few of them. And one of these festivals are like, "Can we interview you?" And I said, "Of course." And they said, "Well, what are you scared of?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Well, what's your biggest fear?" And I'm like, "The weather." And I went to school actually to be a
Right.
meteorologist. But the weather, when it comes to shooting a show that is on a
Hmm.
boat, scares the crap out of me, right? Because it's like we need to have good conditions, right? If we're going for tuna and we've got to go 70 to 100 miles, right? We can't go if it's rough. If we have somebody that's coming on the show that gets seasick, it's got to be super calm.
Hmm.
We had an athlete on the show who competed in the Olympics, who fell off the bridge and had to go to the hospital and get
Holy shit.
stitches this season. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and that day was very, very rough, like extremely rough. Hence the bad fall.
Yeah.
Um, but he's tough as nails, so it was totally fine. But yeah, I think that the weather is something that you have to like work around. You have somebody flying in, and you've scheduled them a month
Yeah.
out, and then you have 2 or 3 days of bad weather. It's just like, oh,
It's like, oh goodness, yeah, in the can. But again,
we got to refigure out what we're doing now. Like, so that's I would say is just like doing a production is an amazing experience because you're dealing with so many people, and then you also have to deal with like PR, getting
mhm,
articles written about the show, getting the show launched, getting eyeballs on the show is extremely hard, right? Like nobody knows who you are yet,
right.
right? So like actually putting it into the ecosystem and saying, okay, is this good? Like, do people like
Hmm.
this? Um, and I think the feedback that I get from everybody is like, the show's great. I want more. And I'm like, okay, well, we need the eyeballs first, right? And then we'll do more because it's expensive to produce, right? Um,
Right.
so yeah, Bounty Uncharted has been really fun. I can't wait till next year this year coming up for season two because I have so many things that I've learned from on how to perfect for next year.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's kind of like the weird part is that the show is just a convergence of everything in my life, like cooking, friends, community, storytelling. Like it's just my life merged together, and a way for me to just kind of memorialize that on the digital screen or the TV screen, or it's like living. It's memories that live on. Put it that way, and it's kind of fun to go back and watch the episodes as they're coming out because we just released the second one, and we're going to have a series of releases coming up in the next month, and so it's fun. It's great.
It's fun. It's great. You have this vivacious, this joie de vivre of being able to create content that goes into the ether, but again is saved for posterity. What's interesting, in terms of success, as a creator. So I watched a clip by our friend Matt Worst about reach and engage, like reach and viewability were the metrics of yesteryear. Now it's all about attention, right? Like once you grab someone's
Yeah.
attention. You mentioned storytelling. So how do you gauge attention? And I know you published episode 2, but so far, like how are you gauging attention with your show?
I mean, the numbers are great. Like, I think the the show lengths themselves, I kind of grappled with trying to figure out, like, okay, what is the right length that somebody's going to watch? Because we're so used to
Yeah,
reels.
short
We're so
form.
used to TikTok. we're so used to this short form like consumption, but this is real storytelling in a way that you can't really do it in 30 seconds to a minute,
Hmm.
right? And so we broke out a lot of these into like smaller reels that we're kind of promoting out there. But the actual video itself, they all range from 10 to 16 minutes. We're playing with different format
Hmm.
lengths as a test.
Okay.
But what I will say is that, the first few episodes that we've had out there, they're about 10 to 12 minutes. Most people have watched to probably 6 or 7 minutes, which I think is a really long time. And that could mean that they've skipped around a couple
Hmm.
times. There's been a lot of fully complete episodes, like they watch the entire thing. Um, it's only, if you think about it, 10 minutes of your
Yeah.
day. So there are podcasts that are out there that are 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It's like you can listen to those when you're in the car or running or
Hmm.
working out. Whereas this show is, there's so much happening. You can't just listen to it. You have to watch it.
Right.
And so that means like after work, on lunch, at night, on YouTube television, that's where people are really
Hmm.
consuming. So it's interesting, right? It's like I originally was thinking about like, from a distribution strategy, everyone's like, well, who are you gonna pitch it to? And I'm like, I've already paid for the whole thing. So it doesn't it doesn't matter, like distribution doesn't
Hmm.
matter to me because it's not hinged on a sponsorship right now. Season 1 is all about kind of like test and invest, like what worked, what didn't work, what do we do for next year? I would like to have maybe one partner who's teamed up with us from a commercial perspective that really aligns with the mission of what we're doing. And I don't want to have 50 brands doing a spot or a product, or
Hmm.
something like that's not what I'm interested in. And it's more than a reel. Last January I had a 30-second reel. That was it. This is the calling card. Now I've got an entire series. It's like, look, here's the prototype. We went out, we filmed it, we did it. They're great. And then maybe there's an opportunity for, Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that.
Hmm. Wow, and
Yeah.
it's pretty outstanding, for season one. And how many episodes have you produced for season one?
We have
So 6
6.
episodes. So you have 6 episodes in the can. You published the second one with celebrity chef Michael Chernow. Highly recommend everybody watch that. Also watch Jeff's episode one with Alfonso James. Also incredible from his time that he met at Patal, which is another incredible marketing event and conference and community. Uh,
Yeah.
for the creative the creative entrepreneurs and the aspirants who want to create something. So you look at episode one versus episode six. When I look at podcast one versus we're recording episode 77 of the Worthy for 30 podcast, I see notice
Yeah.
a huge difference in terms of my comfortability and my confidence. What sort can you explain that difference that you've noticed between episode one of Bounty Uncharted versus episode six?
Yeah, I mean, I think episode 1 isn't really episode 1. Like episode 1 was supposed to be episode
Okay.
3. Um, but the thing is that the concept of the show originally was like, okay, I love food, I love cooking, I love entertaining, I love people, right? How do I share what I'm doing in the Hamptons and also shed a light on the Hamptons that people don't
Hmm.
see? Because everyone sees like summer house and like girls getting wasted, and it's like that happens, but like I'm trying to celebrate the bounty of the land and the sea
Yeah.
here, right? But my original idea was I'm going to get celebrity chefs to come on the show and I'm going to take them out fishing and I'm going to take a back seat to the cooking experience. Instead of me doing the cooking all the time, I'm going to have these celebrity chefs and I'll be the sous chef. But then it changed um, when I was at Patau in June in Atlanta. They did it on the East Coast this year and I met Alfonso. And Alfonso was in jail for over 30 years for murder, and he didn't commit any crime. The Wisconsin Innocence Project actually got him
Hmm.
out. He's free. He's a free man now. And when I met him, his story, everybody was in tears. Honestly, like he gave the most incredible keynote at the event. Like 220 CMOs, CEOs in complete
Hmm.
tears. And you feel for this man because he's so bright and he's such an amazing human, and how this could happen to somebody, right? Like
Yeah.
how could they get it wrong? Like, it's that to me is like profoundly impactful of like this man he's in his 50s now, and he's only free now for the first time. So I changed the show to, okay, it doesn't have to be a celebrity chef because that's what I was thinking. I want it to be a combination of celebrity chefs and chefs who have interesting stories, but then people who have crazy stories, right?
Hmm.
So like AJ Muss, who's, he'll be probably the fifth or sixth episode. His story is insane. Like, he competed in the 2018 Olympics as a US Olympic snowboarder. 4 years prior to that, he had a surgery and he died. Like, he had a heart embolism and he flatlined, and then was in a coma for weeks, and they didn't think he'd ever walk again, talk again, wake up. 4 years later, he competed, and he is now a INSA race car driver, and was in Trofeo and won the Pro Am like Lamborghini race like a couple years ago. So this is a man who's defied all odds, and I'm like, he's a great one to have on the show, right? And so, people who have like really interesting stories and then bringing this experience of like fishing and cooking,
Hmm.
AJ's like loves to smoke. He's in Austin. So like we smoke bluefin tuna.
Hmm.
And we had a huge party. It was really fun. But I saw the evolution of the show through, when you're asking me, like from the first episode to the sixth episode. The first episode, I had no idea what I was doing.
Hmm.
Like, literally, I'm like, I don't know how all this is going to come together. It did. And then kind of, going through even the sixth episode, it's like still like learning and kind of changing, and okay, I need to do this. I need to make sure that we have these settings that are changed to low light. Okay, I need to make sure that we get these 17 shots. There are things that you don't even think about when you're watching
Hmm.
something. Like, okay, we have the drone up and we're pulling out of the marina, but like, the editor wants like hands on the throttle, right? Engine starting, getting shot of that in the water, right? Like lines coming off the bow onto the dock. Like, these are a lot of
Right.
shots. So the first few episodes, I'm like, yeah, but it's not scripted, by the way. This is all just life. Like, we're just shooting. There's no structure. Like every episode, it's like we're going for tuna, we're going for sea bass, we're going for fluke, we're going for mackerel. Like, we're gonna go to the oyster farm, but that's it. The only thing that is the same, the only thing that is planned is the people who are inviting to the dinner party. That's
Hmm.
it. Everything else is like, I don't know if we're gonna, like, yeah, we're going for striped bass, or we're going for fluke, or we're going for tuna. Like, what if we don't catch any fish? Well, then we're gonna have to buy it,
Right.
right?
Which-
I mean, there was a few moments. So when I had Michael out, Michael Chernow, like we were going for tuna, but he wanted to go fluking after we, were tuna fishing, and I'm like, well, Mike, like the bluefin just arrived like a week ago, and no one's really caught anything yet. So like we gotta we got to look for them, and I'm looking at, I use Canyon Runner, which shows me all the thermals of the water temperatures, and like really kind of looking of where those edges are, between 2 to 3 4 degree temperature breaks is where the
yeah.
tuna like to find the bait. So I'm like, look, I think they're here, but we don't know.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, we might be tuna fishing for 10 hours. I don't know if we'll have time for fluke. So I'm like, should we go to the market and buy a fluke just in case if we don't catch any tuna?
Right.
It's like it's show
Yeah.
business, right? Uh, Luckily, we didn't have to do any of that, but I did think about it many times, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
what if we don't catch that fish? We've actually all the fish we caught, we caught. And Chernow's episode, which is so amazing, is it was the first time he had ever caught a tuna in his life, and he's just like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. And I'm like, there's a lot of pressure,
Sure.
right? Like, I'm going to take this guy out, and I want to land him on it. We hooked up in 10 minutes. Like, I brought the boat out. We were heading towards Martha's Vineyard. It was the most beautiful morning. It was like glass. It was the most beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful mornings of the entire summer, which was so exciting because it was like such an experience. We had whales, we had dolphins, we had bait balls, we had tuna
Hmm.
everywhere. We actually caught a few tuna, but we're really only allowed to keep one just because the regulations
Sure.
changed. But Mike's like, is that normal? Like to catch a fish, a tuna that fast? And I'm like, no, it's actually not. I'm like, someone's looking down on us right now.
Well,
Um,
I'm just laughing because there are no stun double fish on the Bounty Uncharted payroll.
no, it was amazing. And, it's like, and then, we caught a couple more just
Yeah.
for fun and released them. But like, I was like, we're back at the dock at 10:30. Like, we left at 2 a.m. and we were back, and then we were going to the farm, and we're like, okay, we got a dinner party for 16 people. Like, let's start prepping. That, my friend, is not so easy after being out all night and no sleep.
Out all night, no sleep. You're entertaining people. You have a celebrity chef who you're cooking with, and it's funny because before we recorded, I mentioned that Aaliyah Lee Kong says we don't talk about how good a chef Jeff is, right? You have the initial concept was having celebrity chefs, but you are this. So, and I told this to Karen Khan, you are the celebrity chef. So, can you talk about
Right.
how you have become like that conductor once you come back with the fish and you're starting to prep for dinner?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was with Michael. It was it was very
Yeah,
symbiotic.
yeah,
You know what I
sure.
mean? It's kind of like I'm like, all right, Mike, you like, what are you going to do? Right? He's like, oh, we're on the farm. He's like, I'm going to do these amazing grilled, golden leeks, braised in the oven. I'm going to do a corn and tomato salad. He kind of did like all the amazing sides, eggplant, roasted, like very almost Mediterranean, Israeli
Mm-hmm.
ish. I'm like, great. Let me focus on the tuna. And so I marinated the tuna, grilled the tuna, did a fluke crudo. So it's kind of we were like very we both worked together in the kitchen, and it was almost like we didn't really have to say anything. Like we just went to it. Whereas I think on the other hand, when I had Aaliyah on one of the episodes, that was she just I mean, she brought the most incredible flavors, like
Mm.
Peruvian flavors that I generally don't work with. And we had, this clams mojeca and Peruvian roasted oysters with this delicious pisco breading. Like, it was amazing. And I just loved, the chefs that were on the show this season. Like, I learned so much from them that I'm now cooking with, in my rotation. And so for the guests that were not chefs, it's like, okay, I'm going to run the show here. But it was a very nice way to, lead for a few of the
Mm-hmm.
episodes, but then also take a back seat for a couple as
Well, it's
well.
it's amazing because if you're cooking with a celebrity chef, at least I would be like, holy shit, like, am I good enough to keep up with this celebrity chef? I think I'm a good cook, but maybe I'm
Yeah.
not. What's interesting though about what you're saying about Turnout is that you have this symbiotic, unspoken, working relationship. Can you talk?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
it was just very like natural. It's just like we were moving and grooving around the kitchen, like we were exhausted,
Zombies,
obviously.
yeah.
Keep in mind, Eric, too, it's like breaking down the fish also. So it's like you're filleting the tuna after we
Mhm.
get back. It's like you want to make sure that you're taking every single piece of meat off that fish and not wasting anything. So it's like just being out all night, coming back from
Yeah.
the boat, cleaning the fish, making sure that we have everything from the farm, from the garden, getting the tables, prepped and ready for the dinner guests, making sure we've got drinks and appetizers and all that. It's like it's a lot for 24 hours. Um, Probably too much. Like I think what I learned from that for the rest of the
Mhm.
episodes is we're gonna do fishing one day, and we're gonna do a dinner party the
So
next day.
2 days of filming.
Uh, 2 days. I mean, most of the episodes we shot over the course of 2 to 3 days
Hmm.
anyway. Uh, and we have a documentary that we can have like 20 hours long if we wanted to. We have so much film, from each guest. But, again, nobody has the attention span, to watch all of that. But they can be reformatted down the line for much larger docuseries. for, let's just say, a Netflix, if they were like, hey, we want this to be a 40-minute episode, we have the content for
Hmm.
that, which is great. So we could always go back and build something out even
No,
greater.
that's awesome. What's also interesting too that I want to make sure it doesn't go unsaid is you've been in the business, building companies, and now you're starting something new. You have this learner mindset, right? And you're working. It sounds like Turnow is emblematic of a guest who also is like, I'm interested to see what Jeff can teach me, right? How can Jeff make my life better by something that he knows that I didn't know before he and I had that conversation. So can you speak to that? I don't want to say it's mentor mentee. Like Chernow, I don't think it thinks of you as a mentee or you. No, not like
Oh,
that. But
well, I would know. I think literally he's like, Jeff, I've never caught a tuna before. And not only that, he's also never filleted a
mhm,
tuna. Right. So I was able to teach him both.
right,
We taught each other things, but it's just like, that's for me, like that is that he will never forget that day ever for the rest of his life. Ever. It is permanently ingrained in his head the first day that I caught a tuna, a bluefin tuna on Bounty Uncharted with Jeff Ragovin. Like, he will never forget that. And he even said it to me. Even just the whales and the dolphins around the boat, he could almost touch them. It's
I
in the,
saw
if you
that.
watch the
Yes,
show,
incredible.
you could, they were coming up on the bow. There were so many of them. There were
Hmm.
thousands. And so it's like, I'll never forget that day. And I'm on the water, in the summer almost every
Hmm.
day. So I see these things all the time, but that experience that we shared together is so powerful. And a lot of the folks that have come on the boat too. I mean, even Anastasia Ganias, who's, in one of the episodes, she was on Dexter and True
Hmm.
Blood. Uh, we canned tuna together. Neither of us have ever canned tuna in a pressure cooker in our lives. We'll never forget that,
Right,
ever.
but
That
no,
moment.
never. No, it's definitely a core memory for all people involved. What I think I was getting at is like like removing the ego, right, as a creator.
Oh yeah, no, there's no ego with this. This is all just kind of like shared experiences, right? First times, right? So like I was telling you with Aaliyah, like she's cooking with all these Peruvian flavors, and I don't, I don't, I don't follow recipes. I never have. Um, I learned so much from her in one day that I've already implemented, right, for a dinner
Mm-hmm.
party. Um, Takes me back to a really funny moment where we're in the kitchen, and she's like, "Jeff, I need some chives," and we were in a rush, and so I was just like chopping, not like I would normally chop super fine. And she's looking at me, and she's like, "I can't watch you do that." I'm like, "No, no, I know how to cut chives, I really do." But it was cute. It was cute. But there is a lot of learning going back and forth between the guests and me, and also other people, right? That actually come to the dinner party and they're watching what's happening live.
Hmm. Yeah, I can absolutely imagine that. But what I'm also getting at too is okay, you remove the ego, you have this creative vision. Like you initially thought, okay, this show is going to be about you going fishing, and then you're going to bring back the bounty, and then these celebrity chefs who come to your house are going to cook them.
Yeah,
But serendipity had another let's say threw a little bit of a wrench, right, in terms of how that unfolded. So you didn't really so what it's the ego, like being egoless, right, when it comes to the creative output, but it's also not like being able to control what you can control versus just letting things unfold the way that they should unfold. Like, can you speak to
right.
that? That I would say it's refinement per se that you're forcing, but you're letting things fall into place the way that they should be.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm understanding what you're asking, I mean, like I said, like things go
Yeah,
wrong,
right.
right? AJ falling off the bridge and basically splitting the top of his nose, and having to get stitches. Like that's a you know, at that moment, I was like, okay, fortunately I have like 17 medikits on the boat because like I'm prepared for
Yeah.
anything. Um, and because I'm out at sea for 25 to 30 hours tuna fishing with my friends, like I've got everything on the boat that we would need. So my first instinct was like, okay, let's get him cleaned up. And I said, AJ, we have a new hospital in East Hampton, so we can get you back in 30 minutes. And he's like, no, we have to film the show. And when he said that, I was, in the back of my head, I'm going, yes, I love this guy. And I had like these blue butterfly, very strong, bandages that, temporarily gave him like relief, and there
Mm,
was, there's some blood coming
sure.
down. Like if honest, you'll see it in, when that episode airs, but it's like he was just like he went with it. He just went with he's like, I might have a concussion. I definitely need stitches. But we caught a lot of fish. We had a beautiful humpback whale right in front of the bow, like showing its tail. It was beautiful. It was a really beautiful
Hmm.
moment. But, that could have been the end of that episode, and he had flown in from Austin and had to leave, like, the very next morning for a race, so we would have had no episode. Um, and so he went with it, I went with it, no one freaked out, and, we made best with the situation that we had on our
Hmm.
hands. But I think just kind of a lot of things a lot of things do go
Right.
wrong, and they are out of your control. Like I said earlier, sometimes it's like organized chaos, right?
Right. It's organized chaos. You have an idea of what that vision is. You again, it's all about the execution, about at least trying, right? At least seeing, getting to a minimum viable product. Again, if we're going to think of creative output as as a tech startup, like what is that minimum viable product? What does that look like? Does it
Right.
match the vision that you have in your mind, or at least that you wrote on paper? Yes, some of the details in between may have changed because again, AJ falling off a boat, you didn't anticipate that, and then you ran with it, and now it's turned into, I imagine a great episode of the Bounty Uncharted series, which is, again, which is tremendous, is what you want, right? Is at the end of the day is making sure that you're able to still, produce the episode and get it out there. With AJ,
Yeah.
so Michael Chernow, you've known for a very long time, right? I think you.
Yes, I've known him since he was probably, let's see, maybe 13.
Wow. um, 13, and we won't mention your age, but so 13, you've known him for multiple decades. You've known AJ for how long?
Yes, I met AJ
This
this
summer,
summer.
okay. The thing that's it.
Today is AJ's
So
birthday.
happy birthday, AJ. Even though this is not coming out
Yeah,
today, happy
yeah,
birthday, AJ. But what's very
yeah,
interesting from the outside in, talking about relationships, because you come across very interesting people in your life, Jeff, that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Turnout you've known for a while, but I imagine you've developed, a pretty strong relationship with AJ, even though you met him over the summer. So can you speak to, yes, you filmed an episode, right, with AJ, and then we'll just use him as an example. Like, where else, how do you make sure that that relationship progresses, not just as an
yeah,
episode, as yeah.
yeah. I mean, everybody who's been on the show this
Hmm.
summer, I adore. Um, every single guest, and I talk to them all the time. Anastasia is one of them where I didn't know her. I met her at the gym, and then I started following her. She has a company called Fancy Peasant, and she creates this incredible olive oil, vinegars, oregano, salt from Greece. Um, we love gardening, we love boating, we work out. Like, we started following each other. She's like, I don't know what you do, but we should do something together. She's was an actress and now she's an entrepreneur. She's literally like, I'm not kidding. Like, I talk to her every single day. We have, like, in the episode, she actually is like, I didn't even know Jeff, and I fell in love with Jeff, and I feel the same way about her. Aaliyah, I met through a very dear friend of mine. Aaliyah and I just cooked together a couple days ago. Like, she's amazing. She's become a good friend. AJ's in Austin, so we talk, but I only was with AJ for a day and a half. Alfonso's family already.
Yeah.
Like, I just talked this morning. He's an incredible human, and I think about, like, when I bring people into my life from coming on the boat or coming to my home, like, I want them to really experience I want them to have the best time ever. But I also want to get to know them, right? And get to know them also on a very vulnerable level
Hmm.
too. right? So like not just surface, like let's really get into it and really um, understand each other. You know, Alfonso and I really connected at first because I felt so I felt so bad for him for, being wrongfully accused of murder and being in jail for over 30
Mhm.
years. You know, that to me was a kind of like a gut punch, right? And Eric, you know this, but I had a twin brother who was in a rollerblading accident when I was
Yep.
17 and died. And that changed my life. That created the new Jeff. I had no choice. And I felt that connection with Alfonso, right? Like I just the minute I met him, we were just like brothers, right? And so I think that there is also like a bond of when you get to know somebody and you get to really know them, right? It's not like, oh yeah, this guy, they're really nice,
Yeah.
right? You really get to know who they are. And it's like I kind of look at life like that. Like we're on this planet for a short period of time. Why not enjoy people and get to know them? And we could only meet so many people, right? But if we could have as many experiences as that we possibly can and learn from each other, like that to me that's winning.
That yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. What were you gonna
yeah.
say? Sorry.
No, I'm just, it's a beautiful
It
thing.
is a beautiful thing, and I think this is a great way to round out this conversation. The reason why I brought Jeff back on the podcast is because he's been an incredible supporter of the Worthy for 30 podcast. In fact, he was one of the inspirations for the Worthy for 30 podcast. I often say, to people who ask like, why'd you start this podcast? I started because of people like Jeff who are both incredibly ambitious. And I say ambitious again, not in a trite way. Like everybody's ambitious. No, no. Jeff is the definition of an ambition, of persistence, of tenacity, of seeing things through. At the same time, which is a very important point that I don't want to be missed or unsaid, is that he's a very giving person. He's a very sincere person. He's a very intentional and purposeful person. Like, he taught me that small things make a huge difference. Reaching out to that friend that you haven't spoken to in a while to check in, or better yet, you heard some unfortunate news about somebody, and it's a couple weeks have gone by. Checking in with that person, just saying how are you doing,
Yeah.
goes a long way. And again, this podcast again is a reflection of Jeff's tutelage on bringing incredible business leaders who are super ambitious and want to make money and do great things, which is fine. At the same time, they want to impact the world. To Jeff's point, we're here for a short time. How do we make this world a better place than what we found and then how we found it? So Jeff, I really do appreciate your time here on the Worthy for 30 podcast, for your contribution, of course. And as I mentioned, Bounty Uncharted, YouTube.com. Hopefully going to be on the big screen, Netflix, maybe. We'll see. Some other streaming
Yeah.
platforms. We'll see. But you've entered the Bounty Uncharted to a couple of film festivals, right? To 40
40.
festivals.
Yeah. We're going to win something. That's
We're,
for sure.
we are going to win something. Yes. We're going to
We're definitely going to win
Yes,
something.
yes, we're
Yeah.
going to win something. Excellent. So I'm going to include links to follow Jeff, links to follow Bounty Uncharted. Jeff, always a pleasure catching up, and we will talk soon.
You too, Eric.
Of
Thanks so
course.
much. It's great being on the
Thank you.
show.